for Baccarat, and that goes in! Hugo Baccarat gives Flint City a 3-2. Buckley, the ball falls to Buckley. One-on-one with Etheridge. What a save!
Welcome into the first ever MSN All-State Media Day for girls soccer. Jonathan Turner alongside Dan Stickrett.
Ball comes in, a good hit! 1-0! Shot, another save from Etheridge! Rebound, and it goes in the back of the net, and the Bulldogs up 1-0! Herzma, looking for Vlasma! 3-0! Stewart Heights with a shot! Upper 90 and in!
Effectively today here on the Michigan Soccer Network, we are launching our new division of player recruitment videos.
Mario Canoe now finds Stock. Finding Stock's got a left-footed banger. He shoots it, and it's in! The Red Hawks equalize!
The Detroit City FC Weekly Recap Show is recorded in our MSN studios in Shelby Township, Michigan, and presented by Trivellani Asset Management, Granite City Food and Brewery, National Soccer Club, Michigan Goalkeeper Academy, Evolution Soccer Training, Premier Sports Center, and FC Barcelona Soccer Camps.
All right, it is week number 4 of the recap show here, Detroit City FC. John Turner, Neil Rule. We're excited to have you along here once again. And not only are we in our 4th show, but Detroit City got their 4th win in a row to start the season undefeated there, Mr. Neil Rule.
No, they did. And look, they got the job done. Now, certainly they ran into probably their first adversity of the season, which we'll talk about in just a little bit. But certainly some injury concerns awaiting word as to what the fate of that is. But it turns out the bottom line is this: 4 matches in, 4 wins, top of the table, this weekend off. So, as Detroit City sits, you couldn't ask for anything more through basically 4 weeks into this whole USL campaign that will go till October. Certainly it is early, but the more the story is, they're 4 for 4, and you can't ask for more.
No, you cannot. And again, an interesting game, as you had mentioned, this weekend on CBS Detroit here locally, ESPN Plus. We talked about how great the national coverage is and the broadcast coverage for Detroit City FC. This game was an interesting one in its own right. You mentioned kind of before we got on here this morning, Neil, that this was an adversity game for Detroit City FC. Talk about that a little bit.
No, it was. And everything went according to plan to start. They came out, they got the early goal at home. Obviously, the Northern Guard, everybody was rocking. There was lots of good vibes in the stadium. But yeah, as you saw Elvis Amo go down, Rhys Williams went down during the match as well, had to be carted off the field, as a matter of fact. So certainly there was some moments of trepidation at Keyworth. And look, Rhys Williams is a guy that's playing a little bit of a different role this season for Detroit City FC, but I think have shown a lot of what he can do from a versatility standpoint with a city. Now, before last year, when you look at what his role was, certainly on the wing for Detroit City FC, a little bit different change-up this season. So, but yeah, getting back to it, Elvis Amo going down, and again, I don't know the prognosis as we go to air here today, still waiting to hear word as to what that story is. But yeah, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, there was a bit of a change there. And Detroit City FC had to come in, kind of hunker down a little bit, make that goal stand up, but they did just that. Now, they conceded some shots in the match, but again, only one of those, I believe, was on target. So Detroit City FC against a very, very good North Carolina FC side as well. Like, I know that they came from USL League One, but they don't have a USL League One roster rolling in USL Championship. They rostered that thing up right last season into this season. Their quality side, and if you want, kind of a prediction, I think when the playoffs start in the Eastern Conference, you're going to see North Carolina FC in those playoffs. So when this whole thing is done coming up in October. But still, with all that being said, you were shown a little bit of a changeup in what Detroit City FC could do. They have been dynamic in the attack all season long. They were without a couple of those pieces going forward in that match, but were still able to kind of close the ranks down, get the 1-0 win. Nate Steinwasher. He's always going to do the job again. I told you last week, Jonathan, you can record my comments about Nate Steinwasher and roll those back. I don't need to say it anymore. I think we all know what the book is with Nate Steinwasher. But again, Detroit City FC, they showed some versatility in what they were able to do. And you have to be versatile. If you're going to be 4-0 through 4 matches and sit at the top of the table, you have to be versatile at some point.
No question about that. Let's take a look here at the overall stats for this weekend's match, and we'll put them on your screen here. Something we've seen consistently throughout this season, leading the way in possession.
No, and that's what they've done, and certainly in the beginning of the match, they got the goal, as we said early on. The real stat that jumps off the page at me, and if you watched the match, which I know a lot of you did, or if you were at the match, 4 yellow cards apiece. This thing got chippy early and often out there, and both sides really, I don't want to say they took some liberties with each other, but they made it known that they were out there on the pitch with each other. So it did get very, very chippy at times. The referee had to have a couple of conversations with some players from both sides. But that was the thing that really jumped out to me. That North Carolina FC, they came in here. They were not intimidated by the environment. I think that is safe to say. But with all that being said, Detroit City did what was necessary to hold on and get the win.
That they did. And something that sticks out for me, and it's just looking at this from the standpoint of, use the word execution, right? And obviously the limited opportunities that Detroit City was able to create in this game, they only had 6 shots, but 1 on target, right? They scored their goal. Their shot. On the other side, 12 shots for North Carolina, only 1 on target. So not able to execute their shots at all. A difference maker in this game for sure.
No, it was. And the back line for City was very resolute in this match because they had to be, because everything changed. And again, with Elvis Amo, and it was, if anything to me, Elvis Amo leaving this match kind of showed you his value in what he does. And in last week's match, where City got the win and scored multiple goals at Indy 11, Amo wasn't a huge factor in that match, but that doesn't mean he wasn't accounted for. And I think that really showed itself in this match, because when Elvis Amo came out, you saw a flip in the dynamic. And certainly Rhys exiting the match as well caused a flip in the dynamic as well. But overall, again, during the middle of the match, Detroit City FC asked to change up what they're doing fundamentally, and they did it, and they made it stand up, and they got the win. So certainly, again, we will wait word on what the injury situation is for Detroit City FC, but that weekend off couldn't come at a better time right now.
No, it couldn't. As we'll take a look here at the current East standings here on your screen, and at the top there is Louisville City sitting 4-0, and right below them, well, they're both number 1, right? You're 4-0. You both got 12 points. There are only 2 in the league that have that. So, matter of fact, the only 2 teams in the entire USL Championship that have 12 points so far this season, and 4 wins and undefeated. So, great in its own right there for those 2 teams, especially Detroit City FC.
Yeah, and Lou City FC is who we thought they were, and they are who they have been every single season. They got off to a little bit of a slower start last year. That is not the case this year. They're rolling, and they lost a few guys. They lost a few centerpieces, but they just kept it pushing. And certainly they had that Indy 11 match on CBS National at 4 o'clock on Saturday, and that match was really never in doubt. I know it looked like on paper on the scoreboard that Indy 11 kind of stuck around in that match. They did not. Lou City was Lou City, and we'll get a look at them. Lou City's coming up on the horizon for Detroit City FC, so it's fins to be, as the kids would say. It's fins to be our early season showdown coming up in just a little bit. Looking down the calendar to that matchup as well. But DCFC, man, just keeping it pushing. And once again, I am kind of stunned about the lack of kind of national discussion about Detroit City with the new coach. Made a couple of additions, kind of changed up the style a little bit, and certainly in the course of this match had to change up the style within a match to get it done. But how do you want it? Because that's how City did, just within that one match as well. So that's a big 3 points for me, not just because you're at home or because you're in the middle of the mix in the top of the Eastern Conference standings. It was a show me match, and it showed me that they could deal with some things going on around them and be able to still hold on to a lead and get 3 points at home.
No, and when you talk about just how important it is, right? And you mentioned, hey, it's not always necessarily how you start, it's how you finish, but man, starting 4-0 is huge. The amount of separation that you're creating in this league right now is extremely important as you get to the business end of the season. No,
and I'll put it another way too, and just kind of reverse engineer this. When you look at it, remember last year with coming down the stretch, and Detroit City really, they had like 4 or 5 different seasons within a season. They had 3-week stretches where they played well, 3 weeks where they struggled, 3 weeks where they put it back together, 3 weeks where they struggled again. And just if City fans remember the battle to get into the playoffs. I mean, it was uncertain and went up until the very last match of the season out there in Sacramento, of all places, where it really dictated the fate of what happened with Detroit City. Now, juxtapose it to this season and look at the table right now as we get ready to push through the middle of April and into May. They are 8 points clear of a playoff spot right now. At no point, I believe, last season were they ever in that kind of position. So, yeah, it is how you finish. It's not how you start. But at the same time, Detroit City right now has built up a bank of points that certainly, if injury situation comes into play, and again, we don't know the situation with Rhys Williams or Elvis Amo, you can weather that storm a little bit. You've built up some goodwill. I kind of equate it to this, Jonathan. When I know my wife is coming home from the store, wherever she's coming from, I will empty the dishwasher and I'll take out the trash. And I got to do an impact thing, like I have to wipe down the counters or move some stuff around on the kitchen so it's optimally, it's optically pleasing when she walks in the door. That builds up some goodwill. So I can go out on the golf course in May and June and maybe take advantage of some of that goodwill I banked. That's what Detroit City FC is doing right now. They're like a married couple that's pre-cleaning the house.
That's a great analogy. I love that. So
that's what you get from me, Jonathan.
Let's take a look at the results from the Eastern Conference this week. Hartford beating Miami 3-2. Louisville, that game was a 5-3, 8 goals scored in that game. Louisville coming out on top, as you had mentioned, over in the 11. Pittsburgh. They're the story, I think, so far of this season. Underperforming, they got a tie, obviously, against Tampa Bay. That may be not an underperforming result, but again, they're currently right now sitting at the bottom of the table. As we saw here a moment ago, they're currently second from last in the table. Rhode Island tied Charleston 0-0. Detroit City obviously beat North Carolina, and Birmingham beat Loudoun 3-1.
Yeah, Charleston getting another draw. I believe that's their 3rd draw of the season, but they have not been defeated as of yet. But that goes to show you the value of the 3 points Detroit City got. I mean, just that win, hanging on over North Carolina, is equivalent to 3 Charleston matches already. So, a little bit of fun with numbers there, but it does go to show you. And yeah, Lou City and Indy 11, that 5-3 crazy affair. But if you're playing on CBS national television, if you're the USL, if you're a USL fan, that's what you like to see. America loves goals. I love goals. Goals are fun. I like goals. They're fun.
That they are. And again, I know this is Detroit City FC, but eventually down the way, we're going to see Pittsburgh. We're going to see them. And they're a team that last year, #1 seed in the Eastern Conference. We go in there, we take care of business in Pittsburgh. And shock, I would say, the USL world last season with what we did. And Pittsburgh now starting off there, they haven't yet to win a game. They're 0-3-1.
No, and you see the business side of USL really showing itself there. Pittsburgh losing a ton of players, Albert Deekwater, Rhode Island, etc. This is not the Pittsburgh team that we've come to know. So Bob Lilly certainly with a challenge. He's an elite coach, though. Pittsburgh's one that they will get it together in some form or fashion. I promise you, they will get it together. I mean, you look at that; they got a draw against Tampa. That's a good result considering where they had been.
No question. So, we talk now about this upcoming match. Now, there's no match. There's a bye week this week for Detroit City SC. But there is a match taking place here next Tuesday. We've got to talk about that. And Neil, it's a U.S. Open Cup match. It's the 3rd round of the U.S. Open Cup. And who's coming to town? Crosstown rival Michigan Stars.
Yeah, Michigan Stars and Detroit City FC. Everyone certainly knows the history across the board between these two teams. Certainly, if you're watching this right now, I have a feeling you know the flavor of this matchup. Just get ready for smoke and smell and those kinds of things that you get at Keyworth, and it'll be an electric environment, no doubt. And this is what you like to see. And rivalries make sports, man. And this, at some point, with the Michigan Stars, they're going up against it in this U.S. Open Cup matchup. But Detroit City FC, we've seen the value of U.S. Open Cup runs. And I think certainly with the U.S. Open Cup, Detroit City FC with another opportunity to gain a quote-unquote market share within the soccer community, within the American soccer community as well. They've gotten arguably the biggest wins in the history of their club in the U.S. Open Cup with beating MLS sides in the Columbus Crew. So this could be another step towards doing that. But again, the weekend off, very, very big as we continue to evaluate what's going on with Elvis Amo and Rhys Williams. But Keyworth will be electric. I know that.
It will be electric, and there may or may not be, smoke, as you mentioned.
There may or may not be. I'm leaning towards maybe.
Right. Very likely that there'll be smoke and fun at Keyworth Stadium here Tuesday night.
It depends on what side of the touchline you're on, if it's fun or not. You know what I'm saying?
That is.
Some people haven't had as much fun with the smoke and the smell.
I guess the question, will there be any more letters after the fact?
That I can't tell you. That I don't know. I can't speak for that. All I know is that the environment will be electric. And the U.S. Open Cup, despite some of the political stuff that's gone on around the U.S. Open Cup, and as far as U.S. soccer is concerned and all that, I can't speak to that. I'm not in those discussions. But the U.S. Open Cup certainly is one of the great sporting events in America.
No question about that. So that game coming up here on Tuesday, April the 16th, kickoff at 7 p.m. Eastern at Keyworth Stadium as Detroit City FC welcomes in the Michigan Stars Soccer Club from Washington Township. So they'll be out there on Tuesday, April the 16th, and that's the next matchup. But let's take a look here at the upcoming USL schedule this upcoming weekend. Obviously, Detroit City FC is not in there, but looking at these matchups, what one sticks out to you the most here, Neil?
If you're a City fan, I think it's business as usual. Just so when you look at these matchups, as far as the Eastern Conference is concerned, you just root for draws. That's what you're looking for, especially when you're 4-0, sitting on top of the table. You just root for draws because that maximizes your wins. And I know, come on, Neil, it's April. This thing goes till October. But, yeah, that's the story. If you're a Detroit City fan, you want draws the rest of the way, and you want wins the rest of the way because it maximizes the points that you have in the bank already. Just from the standpoint of the whole Rhode Island Pittsburgh matchup, because Pittsburgh's going to get it together at some point. You just hope it's not you the day that they do get it together. Indy 11 Charleston. Certainly we'll probably keep an eye on that matchup as well, as Charleston just kind of keeps it pushing. Again, 3 draws for them, but they have not lost as of yet. Indy 11 right now, a gauntlet of a schedule. Had Detroit City, certainly went to Lou City on national television. So now, I don't want to say they're in danger or anything like that, but it is getting to be the middle of April, and they've taken a couple of L's, and Charleston's rolling up next. So certainly they got a tough challenge.
That they do. Obviously, those games taking place this weekend, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday. We'll have the USL schedule for our next recap show after the US Open Cup game here next Tuesday. But that's everything. We got everything in here in a short amount of time, Neil. We are rolling through this recap show.
Now, let's be efficient, Jonathan. That's what I was told. We have to be efficient.
We do. Obviously, Detroit City FC's 4-0. We talked about that, obviously. Looking to go 5. Their next matchup against Oakland Roots here in 2 weeks.
No, absolutely. And we'll have the TV coverage for you on Detroit 50, as we always do. ESPN Plus also. So certainly looking forward to that matchup. The little West Coast team coming into town. And Oakland Roots, they're kind of an interesting story, just kind of 30,000-foot view. Obviously, you guys know the Oakland A's are moving out of town. The Golden State Warriors have left town as well. That community's kind of latched on to the Oakland Roots. So they certainly have a strong following, but they'll be on the road here at Keyworth. It's always tough. West Coast teams coming into Keyworth. So certainly looking forward to that one. DeadCityFC.com. Get your tickets. Come on out to Keyworth.
No question about that. That's a wrap for our DCFC recap show this week. Week number 4 in the books. Don't forget to subscribe, like this, share this with your friends and family. We'll have short videos all week long in regard to this recap show. We'll be back here in 2 weeks with a recap of the Oakland Roots game here in just a few weeks. For all of us here, I'm John Turner, and that's Neil Rule.